So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us all here today. We're delighted to see you, and I'm more than delighted to have Dr. Michael Murray with us from our Department of Adult Education, Adult and Community Education, I should say. What we're going to do today is a presentation from Michael, not too long, and then afterwards you'll have the chance to put your questions into the little Q&A icon that you can see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll go through those questions afterwards. So any comments, queries, questions that you may have, put them in there, and after the presentation we'll be able to go through them. So I will hand over to you now, Michael.
Thanks very much. I'm actually going to be doing this presentation with the other co-director of the program, Angela McGinn. So it'll be a joint presentation between the two of us. Really what we're going to do today is just talk a little bit about obviously the program itself, but we also want to talk a little bit about the ethos of the department, because that really does shape the kind of work that we do in the Masters. So it's the M.Ed in Adult and Community Education. It's a full-time Masters program, level 9, and it's 90 credits in total. So just in relation to how we work, our department is the only adult education department in Ireland. And within that, we take a particular approach to the kind of work that we do. I suppose it's worth mentioning from the outset that the Masters itself, I'll talk a little bit about the structure in a moment, but the Masters itself really concerns conducting a piece of research. And in relation to the kind of research that we would promote, I just want to go through a couple, if you like, of the particular issues that help frame the kind of work that we do. So in relation to the department itself, hold on just one second. This is, I suppose, if you want, a mission statement in relation to the department itself, but it really does give you a sense of the kind of work that we do. So, as it says, the department is firmly committed to equality and social justice. We believe that education is a fundamental human right, and collaborative, critical adult education has the power to transform individuals and change society for the better. And in relation to that, obviously, there's issues around ethics in terms of research. And because the thesis is central to the master's program itself, we take ethics very, very, very seriously, as the university does. But that's really the beginning point that we would start to ascertain whether a particular piece of research is viable enough or not, is in relation to the ethics and the ethical approach to the research itself. So the Masters itself will spend quite a bit of time talking about the ethics of research, the impact that research has, not just obviously on the people who are involved in the research, but the wider impact that research might have in relation to communities and wider society. So it is something that we really, really do take very, very seriously. We do believe that adult education, particularly in the context of its roots in Ireland, is very much geared towards working with individuals and groups that periodically find themselves marginalized in society. And it's really, in one sense, to hopefully make visible their experiences in relation to adult and community education, but also there's a hopeful underpinning to the research, is to figure out ways in which people can feel empowered, or communities or groups of people might even feel an emancipatory moment themselves. And on that, just moving on, in terms of, again, how we would view the research and the knowledge that's being produced through the research that we hope people will come and conduct with us. So this is a concept called praxis, and it would be a very, very well-known concept in adult and community education. And the reason why I'm talking about this is to really, really underpin the notion of the kind of knowledge that is produced through research. I think in one sense, and justifiably, I suppose, there's sometimes a view expressed that the kind of work or research that is conducted in institutions such as Maynooth is really very, very much for a very small audience, an academic audience, and so forth. We strongly encourage the kind of research that we would support to have a life outside of the master's program itself. In other words, it would have some sort of practical application. So the notion of how we think about things, if you like, the theory, is always informed by the action or the experiences of the practitioners themselves. And those practitioners sometimes invariably can offer a link into communities, and as I mentioned before, particularly marginalized communities and so forth. But I think what this really underpins as well is the notion that the master's is really geared towards people who already have some sort of footprint in adult and community education. It is a master's program. It's not an introductory program. As I'll talk a little bit about the modules themselves in a second, but they are aimed at advanced thinking. So this is not an introduction to adult and community education. And we would anticipate that the people who would come to us would already have some either experience or some sort of grounding in adult and community education in their own context. So that's the kind of knowledge that we're interested in. So just to talk a little bit about the program itself and the modules, it's 90 credits. The modules are 90 credits, and 30 of those credits are made up in relation to the thesis. The thesis itself includes instruction in research, and it also includes supervision as well. And that really is the focus of the year. So when people come to us on day one, we do a little bit of a primer induction before people actually physically come to us in September. But it's assumed that when people come, they have a topic already thought out in terms of the research they would like to conduct. And they bring that with them on their first day. So we literally begin working on the thesis on day one. Um, and from that, there is supervision, and I'll talk a little bit about the supervision in a second. And every aspect of the thesis, and that includes everything from instruction into methods, research methods, reflections on research methodologies, even reading and writing. And I know that might sound a little bit simplistic, but the expectation of the kind of reading and writing that you'd be expected to do at level 9. In other words, what makes a piece of work master's work? We bring people through that. At no time is it a question of sort of trial and error, where you will send an essay in or a student will send an essay in and we say, no, that's not what we want. We bring people through all of those aspects of reading and writing and so forth, and all aspects of thesis completion. So that's 30 credits, and that is really the core of the program itself. And then there's the core modules. So that's advanced theories of adult and community education, power politics and society, adult education and context, advanced gender studies in adult and community education. We would see those as the three core modules of the program in the sense that they give participants an opportunity to explore different theoretical frameworks, different conceptual frameworks, but the emphasis is always going to be on what would be useful for the student to know in relation to their thesis. So there is obviously a little bit of just talking in general terms about theories, but really the focus very quickly comes on what the students themselves determines as useful for them to know. And we really facilitate that search. So a lot of the assignments based around those three core modules are actually asking the students to think about theory in the context of research. So there's always that notion of working on the thesis. There's three other modules, which is key concepts in adult learning, ethical perspectives on adult education, which reflects what I was saying earlier in relation to the importance of ethics, and finally, history and policy of adult education. Um, so that's the modules themselves. In terms of the structure of the program, it's 1 day a week. It's Mondays. It's always Mondays. And it's a full day on Monday. It's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. approximately on Mondays. And so they're quite intense days. And The reason why we just have the one day for people on campus is pretty much everyone who attends the masters is working in the field, and they're working full time as well. And they're able to obviously negotiate to get a day off to come to Maynooth and so forth. So it's an acknowledgement from us that people have lives outside of the masters. Um, but it is, like I said, it's an intense day, and it is the hours that you would need in order to fulfill a full-time master's. The assumption on our part is when you're not with us, you're either going to be working or you're going to be doing your own independent research and scholarly work. So the students themselves are working full time, and that includes work on the master's itself. The course also involves one Saturday in semester one for ethics. So it's a whole Saturday just given over to ethics, and it's a seminar and a workshop scenario. Um, I've already talked a little bit about the central importance of the thesis. I also want to say as well, in terms of the supports that students would get coming to us, we have two levels of supervision, and this is all timetabled, so it all happens on the Monday. So the students are not required, in most cases, to come back on campus for another day for supervision. At the beginning of the year, each student is allocated their own supervisor, and that is somebody who the students work with throughout the year. That's the advisor um, in terms of how our students writes the thesis and conducts the research. But we also have another level of supervision called group supervision. And typically that means small group work. An awful lot of the stuff we do is small group work, which, sort of like, for example, could mean that three students and three supervisors sit in a group and work together. And that's really a troubleshooting space. It gives students an opportunity to talk about the challenges they're facing in relation to research, and collectively then we try and come up with solutions for the students. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we fully support the students' development as master's students, as researchers, and as advanced practitioners in the field itself. And based on that, that's one side of it, I suppose. The other side of it is there is an assumption or anticipation that the students themselves will participate in obviously the courses, but participation means talking, participating in terms of contributing viewpoints is really, really, really crucially important. We take very much a dialogical approach on the programs and on the modules here. I mean, I suppose in one sense, the rationale is that if you can talk something, you understand it, but also you can start to see the gaps in your knowledge simply by articulating your ideas and so forth. So participation is absolutely vital for anybody who comes to us. It's important to create a community of learning amongst the students, because that will actually be one of the key resources that students will lean on, not us, but the students who are in the same group as them. So we'll spend a lot of time building that sense of community, community identity. And usually in our experience, then the students themselves take that and run with it. And it's a very, very, very important resource. But that can only happen when students commit to participate fully in the program, in discussions, in talking about articles, in sharing articles or materials with other students as well. So, Angela, is there anything you would like to?
No, I don't think so. I think you captured everything. I mean, we welcome applications from students all over the world. A number of students come to us on a variety of different scholarships, the Government of Ireland scholarships, etc. And just to say, I suppose when you were talking about the type of students that we take, we do expect that students will obviously have a primary degree in social science or a related area. It's very, very difficult to come onto the program with no social science background. So we find that students do better if they have a social science background or an education background. Prior to coming on the program. Okay.
So, that's us. If anyone would like to ask us any questions.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I can see we have quite a number there on the call. So please, this is your chance now. Put your questions into the little Q&A chat there. You can see it. Don't be shy. This is your chance to talk directly to Michael and Angela. Ask them whatever questions or comments that you have. I think you went through everything very clear there, which is great. I gave the students a great understanding of the format of the program, because sometimes across the university there's different ways of teaching or timetabling or the structure and that, but it's quite clear that they have intensive days, but equally they have self-study days and group study. And I know our postgrad students really enjoy and benefit a lot from the kind of the small group work that you do there, and learning from each other and that kind of peer support that's there as well. And I suppose the old saying, the more you put in, the more you get out of the program. And that's so clear with this, that there's so much for them to learn and to benefit from, but they have to do it. They have to participate. They have to be active on this. I don't see any questions at the moment. So I tend to take that sometimes as a good response, that you've covered everything so clearly. They have no questions. We'll just hold on for another minute or two. I just wanted to tell those of you on the call that the international scholarships are now open. We're accepting applications for it. There are various scholarships and awards available, ranging from the Vice President's International one, which is 7,500, down to maybe not quite relevant to this call. There are undergrad ones at 1,500, but there are a range there. If you jump onto our website, you'll see it there. You'll see the different categories, and you'll see the application form. You need to have an offer, and you need to have accepted the offer. The first deadline coming up for our scholarships is the end of March, and then the next one then is the end of April. So you still have time, if you haven't submitted your application, to get it in. The admissions team will have a look at it, and then they will send it over to Michael and the team there in the department. So you should allow initially about 14, 21 days for the admissions team to have a look, and then over to the department, and then hopefully we'll get a decision as quickly as possible for you there. So if you are interested in applying for the international scholarships, you need to get your application in quick because it all takes time. And the first, I know, deadline is the 31st of March. I think everybody's incredibly shy today. I don't see any questions there. We have a number on the call there, but I'm sure, Michael, afterwards they are very welcome to email you at any time, or myself. I mean, I'm in touch with them a lot, and if they want to send it through me, we'll obviously pass it over to you. But I can just I can see the attendees there, but nobody seems to have any questions. So again, it's a little bit early in the year for accommodation and that for international students. We do offer on-campus and off-campus accommodation. The process for that really doesn't start until later in the spring, early summer, so around May or so. And we'll be in touch with you about that. When you need to do something, we will let you know. When we're offering information sessions on how to look off campus, or when you need to, submit an application for on campus, we will let you know. Just as a kind of general reminder, if I can butt in for a second or two, I'm continuing with the offer holder information sessions. They're being offered continuously, and we have a more relaxed, informal meet and mingle, as we call it, session, kind of a virtual tea break, if you like. And that is a chance for you to chat with the other offer holders. Student ambassadors will also be on those calls, and it's just a very informal, friendly way to get to know your future classmates and to ask us any questions. So the students on the call there, you will be getting invitations for those. Join us if the time suits. If not, like this particular session, everything is recorded and shared afterwards, because it is impossible to find a time that's acceptable across all the time zones. So join me over the coming weeks, and we will keep in touch with you. Well, it's radio silence. We have no questions there at all from the students on the call. So this was a quick one today, but sometimes it goes like that you cover everything in great detail. So I'll just thank you again, Michael, Angela. This is a busy time of the year. The spring is always so busy here. The campus is alive today. There's a touch of spring in the weather, and there are students everywhere. It's really lovely today. It's a lovely day on campus. We hope to see you obviously in September here. In the meantime, keep in touch with us. And if you have any questions, just send them in to me or send them to Michael. and we will reply. So thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you all soon. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.